Hello and welcome to the first in a series of conversations with senior government officials of countries that are of high relevance to the issues of displaced Syrians. And it is no surprise that we are starting with Turkey. Turkey is a country that has officially more than 3.6 million registered Syrian refugees. Unofficially, that number is higher than 4 million. It has shown a great generosity in accepting a number of such a high number of Syrian refugees. It is also directly involved in Syria and is one of the key actors in the processes that affect displaced Syrians, not only those who are in Turkey. For this conversation, we are very glad to be able to welcome Professor Yasin Aktay, a sociologist by training, a social activist, a very senior official of the ruling AK party in Turkey, and a chief advisor to the President of Republic, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Professor Aktay, welcome and thank you for this conversation.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
The purpose of this is to provide an insight into Turkey's vision on issues related to displaced Syrians. And I think that perhaps there is no better place to start than to ask directly when it comes to Syrian refugees in Turkey itself. What would you say that the current government's vision is between, let's say, if we are seeing it on a spectrum, at one end being naturalization and long-term presence of Syrians in Turkey, and on the other, creation of a safe environment for their return homes, to their homes?
Thank you for giving me that opportunity to have a good, hopefully a good conversation about the tragic event indeed in our century, in the 21st century. It is one of the most catastrophic events taking place, unfortunately, in our times. That time is the time when which is very proud of modernity, very proud of its sensitivity to human rights, to the problem of refugees, or to the problem of the displaced people, to the problem of the violated rights of human rights, etc. But unfortunately, these things is happening. You are Bosnian, and you know when Ali Izetbegovic was witnessing what happened in Srebrenica or in Bosnia in general, he said, of course, we were disappointed. We were being disappointed because we didn't expect, we never expected such things to happen in the 20th century, in the last quarter of the 20th century, and in the middle of Europe. Of course, probably Syria is not in the middle of Europe. But it is very close to, and many European countries had many very strong relations with that country, especially France. France has very strong impact upon the regime of Syria. France is proud of its enlightenment, its modernity, its democracy. But it has very strong ties and very strong connections with the regime, the Baas regime of Bashar al-Assad. And I think if France if France was sincere in the solution of the problem in Syria, many things will happen in very different direction. But unfortunately, the what is happening in Syria is not a matter of it doesn't matter many countries or those actors of democracy or human rights. As for the very existence of the Syrian refugees in Turkey, Turkey became as you mentioned, one of the few countries very being influenced from the Syrian crisis first, not to say more influensive upon the crisis, but which is being influenced, which is being impacted about whatever happened in inside Syria, because Turkey has very long border, about more than 900 kilometers border, and anything happening in Syria is directly influencing inside Turkey. And of course, we have not the luxury to say that, oh, it's not up to us. We are not interested about in what is happening in Syria, and they have their own internal problem, and we cannot be be concerned about what's happening. No, anything is happening. Anything is taking place in Syria has direct effect upon Turkey. So Turkey is involved, directly involved, and even without any deliberation and without any intention to be part of that problem. So the problem of Syria is problem of Turkey, of course, and so nobody can question about the Turkish relations with inside Syria. Inside Syria, the internal issue of Syria now is the internal issue of Turkey. That is the fact. And as you remember, it took about, we came to the anniversary of the 10 years anniversary about the crisis which happened in Syria. And many people who came from Syria, who migrated to Syria, who refugeed to Turkey, in the beginning of this crisis, they are here since 10 years. And 10 years or 9 years or 8 years, somebody came later on. And this 8 years is very long term to settle in any place or in any new country, in any new location. And now the people who came with 8 years old, now they are in 18 years old. And with those who came without, speaking in their language, now they are speaking Turkish, and they learn directly, and they immediately they get very strong familiarity with Turkish language, and they got the second language. And probably some Syrian children who grow up in Turkey now, they came to speak two language at least. So now they about 4 million people, 4 million refugees came from Syria, and they dispersed all around Turkey, not only in the border of. At first, of course, we should remember that about the treatment of Turkey to them, about the policies and the practices of the refugee camp of Turkey, for example. I mean, it is not, of course, about to always remind them and to make to bore them, and but it is not, I mean, far from or the reality that we can be proud of this practice or this approach to the refugee issue. Because the standard of the refugee camp is the highest one in the world, the world has ever seen, and everybody now is appreciating this approach to the refugees in Turkey, because there are many cities in the border of Turkey, inside Turkey, of course. Now they are outside Turkey. Now they are in the Syrian part of the border. Also, Turkey is still continuing to maintaining some such building such new camps, and these camps were introduced. In these camps, all the services, human services, social services, were being introduced, and not to make them feel that they are really to be refugee is or to be displaced is sufficiently big tragedy, the big drama for a person, for a family, of course. But those who came to find refuge, to find asylum from their home, they are sufficiently are suffering from what they lived, what they passed through, because many of them were bombed, and they lost their beloved, and their children, their fathers, their mothers, I mean their brothers, their sisters, and the families were fragmented, were dispersed, and this is really very, very dread. When you look at when you have a zoom on the details, or on any close-up on the details of what is what is what is happening there, it is really very, very sad and very, very big tragedy. So if you have any heart, any human heart, you cannot keep insensitive, indifferent to what you see there. So Turkey, of course, when this crisis began in Syria, it took a stand. First, of course, it tried to have a pressure upon the regime, upon Assad. I mean, relying on their good relationship with Assad regime, with the Assad government, with Assad himself. The personal relationship with Assad and Erdogan was helping at the beginning, and Tayyip Erdogan tried to send his good messages and his advices, his recommendations about how to treat the protests, how to treat the demonstrations. And the only advice was to treat them in peaceful way, and not to bomb them, not to kill the protesters, not to apply to any violent means to hinder such protests. Of course, there are many other peaceful ways to hinder or to end such demonstrations, or to treat such demonstrations. Demonstrations are part of any, not to say democratic, part of any modern society. It's all the social life in our time, because we were in the middle of the Arab Spring period. And in the Arab Spring period, the demonstrations in all Islamic countries were in very peaceful way. They didn't need to be behaved in this way, of course. But unfortunately, Assad didn't listen Tayyip Erdogan or all other Turkish authorities who had a visit many visits to the Damascus, and they didn't listen him. Unfortunately, they didn't listen Turkish voice, and they started to kill to bomb by barrel bombs and by some chemical bombs, and they used all the means, all the ways to end these protests, and to end these which turned to be a rebellion. And of course, people at the beginning were not asking for revolution. They were not asking for example, ending the regime. They were just seeking for reformation only. And at the beginning, the Shab was shouting that they were shouting, "Ashab yurid yurid islah al-nizam," instead of, I mean, the people are asking for reformation instead of asking for isqat al-nizam. I mean, it means, the fall of the regime. So that was in the past, of course, and what happened, and we saw that thousands of people who were bombed by regime came to the border of about hundreds of thousands. Then it arrived that millions of people came to the borders of Turkey to seek asylum from Turkey. At first, of course, Turkey was not expecting this, and Turkey was expecting and was estimating about not more than 100,000 people who would seek for asylum, and it immediately prepared all the refugee camps in the border, and with high standards, of course. And then we realized that these also attracted much more Syrians and much more asylums from Syria, and they very in very short time these estimated limit, I mean 100,000 people was exceeded, and then we realized that it becomes hundreds, and then millions of people came from Syria, and they came, and Turkey Turkey very fast, very quickly tried to adapt to the new situation, and it was of course an immediate solution to disperse or to distribute all these people to all Turkey, I mean, to not to be concentrated in one city. It allowed them to, if they have this opportunity, if they have these possibilities, they could go to the cities, to other cities of all Turkey, but with the appointment of Turkish authorities, of course, with the Turkish migration center.
Let me ask you on that, just because my next question is very much connected to that. How do you see integration of Syrian refugees in the Turkish society? What is your assessment, and what would be recommendations for the Syrian community in Turkey?
Actually, I think this integration, I mean, much of or most of this integration has already been done. I mean, many Syrian people now are living side by side with Turkish people in many cities, especially in Istanbul. And Istanbul, Ankara, Adana, Izmir, all are filled with Syrians. I mean, and this the integration, of course, all such fast migration or fast resettlement requires many policies for integration, just as happened in many European countries, especially Germany. The people from Turkey were different people, were foreigners regarding the Germanian society, but they found some ways. They employed many sociologists, psychologists, social psychologists, and social service person staff. And then they tried to, and they opened new core courses or new schools for achieving high level of integration. From their point of view, this integration, of course, was very, very important because they don't need such a proliferated multicultural society indeed. But Turkish society and in general, or the Muslim societies in general, were already multicultural. I mean, so the multiculturality is not that much important, not that much problem from Turkish or Muslim point of view. But unfortunately, even though Turkey has these very ideal practices in its history, now it is a modern society. It is a westernized society, and westernization paradoxically is against multiculturalism, and the national state requires homogenization of people in order to be integrated. Of course, Turkey is, alhamdulillah, fortunately, it is not that much, I mean, homogenized and seeking for that homogeneity, and it is not racist, and it is not, again, it has no high level of xenophobia. Xenophobia is a problem of all societies, not only Deutschland, not only France, not only Ireland, but every society has a certain extent of xenophobia, and xenophobia sometimes rises in the midst of some economical crisis, etc. But fortunately, and alhamdulillah, in Turkey, that level of xenophobia is at the lowest level. It is not to be mentioned as a very big, serious problem in Turkey, inshallah. So the integration of, the integration of the Syrian people is taking place. It's already taking place. Of course, not without problems. There are many problems, especially we can mention about many problems, but these problems are very normal problems. I cannot say that these are abnormal and it is it is extraordinary. No, in all such integration could take place in some in some with some pains. I mean, some pains from the point of view of the coming people. I mean, immigrating people who came from, they are carrying their pains, their very bad, very sad past. They are carrying that, and they are carrying their problems with them also. And from the other point of view, the people who are accepting them, who are receiving that, I mean, the existing settled people, the Turkish people, when they are hosting these people, of course, it is another problem. I mean, if this is problem, it has sociological aspect. It is not only because of nationalism. It has many things to do with the economical situations, because the refugees, the coming people, are taught or treated as if they came to take part from they take share from their own, yes, from their own economy, etc. And so if a little bit the economy is getting, I mean, bad, many people, it is the scapegoat. I mean, the scapegoat policy or the scapegoat idea is beginning to work, and they think that, oh, this is the foreigners or the refugees or the Syrians. Sometimes the Africans whoever they are, they are in the scene, are being targeted in this way, just as it's happening, just a little bit less, alhamdulillah, when it is happening in European countries. Not that much, but of course, these also may play a role. But integration is taking place, and we are now. I think we should think about these Syrian people are now part of Turkey. We cannot say that, oh, they will come, they will go someday. Someday they will go back to their country. Even if they go to their country, they will be probably moving and coming and going, because many people came and they get married from Turkish citizens, and they get Turkish citizenship also. Some of them, and somebody came and they settled, and they start their own business here. And these business we cannot end in one day or in a very short time, even if the problem in Syria come to an end, and this will continue. I mean, I think the integration will take place in very different way, not in the way of by time this integration has already taken place, and the children of these Syrian peoples, and mashallah, they are very good reproducers, and more than 500, about half million children were about half million children were born during this time, and alhamdulillah, this is good. I cannot say this is bad, because it is from the God, and this is. I think Turkey has the Turkish society has sometimes is confused, of course, about the function of these refugees, about these Syrian people in the country. I am not confused, of course. I have many clear ideas about their role, their functions in society. I think they are working very positively. They are playing very positive role in the reproduction of Turkey, in the reproduction of the Turkish economy, even the population of Turkey, and they will be part of Turkey. And we should remember, of course, it is not that much difficult to be integrated with these people, because when you go to the southeastern region of Turkey, you can see the same configuration and the same composition of the population there. I mean, it is my hometown in Siirt, for example, you can see the Kurdish people, Arabic people, and Turkish people are working together, and they are sharing, and they are showing a sort of very good, very strong multicultural situation. And this population has, they say, their relatives on the other part of the border. and the integration is the culture is not that much different, and we see, and the Syrian people are not lazy people. They are very good hard workers, and they are very good. I mean, they are they work good. I mean, so they are very clever. They are very smart people, and their children, especially in the schools, are very, I mean, successful in their works, in their studies, in the schools, and I think they will play a very, very positive role in the development of Turkey, which is in the way of development already. And
I
Turkey
think
is
this is a very important point. As a Bosnian, I now, 25 years after the end of the war in Bosnia, we see how much Bosnians have contributed to various societies where they
yes,
were accepted as
exactly,
refugees. That, from a personal perspective, having now worked with my Syrian sisters and brothers for a while, I can see firsthand how much they are contributing to Turkey and to other countries. And this is something that gets overlooked very often because, like you said, the narratives are often refugees are coming in, they are taking our livelihood and all that, when refugees are very often contributing a great deal. But let me move to another topic, which you kind of mentioned tangentially, and that is Turkey's cooperation with the European Union regarding Syrian refugees. We know that there is an agreement in place. Europe, unfortunately, is adopting, and as a Bosnian, I can see that firsthand, a policy of militarizing its borders against refugees, against migrants, turning them away at any cost. We could see that in that conflagration on Turkish-Greek border earlier. What would you say, how would you describe this cooperation or relationship with the EU when it comes to Syrian refugees?
let me say first, to be honest, when we are looking at the Europe in general, you can criticize the European Union in general. But for example, I cannot criticize Germany. Yes, I can criticize, but not deeply, because I really, I should, to be honest, I should appreciate the situation and the policies of Germany in about Syrian refugees. Of course, not to talk about European Union in general, because in Germany, even though it has no any border with Syria and Syria is far from it, but people are coming to find asylum in Germany, and now Turkey is now Germany is already accepting and hosting about more than million Syrian. It is not simple number, I mean, and this also had a very strong impact upon the economy, upon the social situation of Germany, and of course, what it is doing is not the ideal, but it is compared with other countries, it should be appreciated, I think, and should be that we should be honest, we should be fair about our criticism. But in general, this problem is already, I mean, the Syrian problem is not the problem of Turkey only. It is only also the problem of Europe. If Turkey not, for example, hindering and hosting all these people, all these refugees their ultimate goal is to go to Europe. But Turkey is hosting them, and Turkey is taking the charge of European Union. But it is not it is not pursuing. It is not receiving any or not any, if not any, well, it is receiving not all the responsibilities of European Union, and European Union is taking is charging all the responsibility and all the price upon Turkey, and but they don't give to Turkey anything, and they don't share their price. They don't share their responsibility, and Turkey is left alone. And you know, this the agreement between Turkey and European Union is good for European Union, but it's not good for Turkey. and that part which is not good for Turkey should be appreciated and should be, I mean, its charge on its burden should be shared with Turkey, but they are not. Unfortunately, they didn't. In addition to this, I mean, to keep this alone, Turkey was, of course, ready, and Turkey was not unhappy about what is doing to their brothers, to their Syrian brothers, of course. But the problem was, even though Turkey is trying to do this, it also tried to try to solve the problems in its resource. I mean, in Syria, and to bring a solution to the situation and to make a pressure upon the Assad regime in order not to kill people, and even to change the regime there in order to end this, because it looks that as far as this regime is alive and it is on board, there is no solution to what is happening in Syria, and this is the source of the refugees, the asylum, and these people will always, I mean, the Syrian soil will always produce and reproduce these migration waves. And Turkey is calling for the European side to unite and to have a common stand to the regime in order to change, and in order to set a peace in there. But we see what Turkey is trying to do in Syria, for example, to build a free zone, for example, in Syria, in order not to receive all the refugees in its own borders. We didn't receive any respect, keep alive the support. We didn't even receive any respect from the European countries, and the European, even there was many attacks against Turkey from PKK or YPG or even from Daesh. There were some attacks against Turkey, but we didn't see any solidarity with Turkey in face of these attacks. Just on the contrary, when Turkey tried to hinder and tried to make a sort of prevention, preemptive, I mean, measures Turkey tried to take, and we saw European countries were criticizing Turkey, when much more than criticizing Turkey, they were blaming Turkey to be a sort of occupier in the Syrian land. Why was this? I mean, what Turkey tried to do is just to make a free zone within Syrian borders, and not, for example, to cause these refugee waves come to Turkey or from Turkey to European Union. I mean, they are not in good empathy with Turkey. Unfortunately, they don't share any concerns of Turkey, but they ask from Turkey to be a sort of tampon area, or a zone to make the Syrian refugees wait within Turkey, or even settle in Turkey, not to go to Turkey. Turkey is protecting European Union, but we don't see any comparable support from European side.
I will ask you in a minute a couple of questions about the north and Turkey's presence there and its plans when it comes to displaced people. But I have to ask you this, because this is something that you brought up, and this is something that we often see in our research with displaced Syrians, and that is especially people in Assad-held areas. This is something that is not being discussed very openly. And it's very relevant, and that is that people in Assad-held areas are still looking to leave. So that displacement is not over at all, and their preferred destination is Europe. They are looking first and foremost to try and reach Europe. However, European Union accused Turkey early last year, of weaponization of refugees. How did you respond? How do you respond to that accusation from the EU?
First of all, the situation in Syria is, of course, still producing that displacement. I mean, and people are still being displaced, and many people of Syrian, if tried any opportunity, any way to go out, they go. So because the regime is there very dangerous to their own people, and we cannot bring any ultimate solution to the problem unless we make or more objective diagnosis about what is happening there. The only reason for these refugees or for this problem is the regime itself. I mean, if we keep the regime, America came from 5,000 miles abroad and came to solve the problem, but they didn't then change their idea, and instead of fighting Assad, they created as another enemy and called Daesh, and they fought Daesh. Well, okay, we also fought Daesh, and we ended Daesh from the Turkish borders, and then Daesh done. But even the reason for the emergence of Daesh was Assad himself, and it is not the solution. It didn't. We saw that it didn't bring the solution to the problem, and still Syria is in very high instability and will produce all these problems to Turkey, to the world, not only to Turkey, not only to European Union, to all the world. I mean, but we are very surprised and we are very disappointed about the treatment of the world to Assad, to people like Assad, I mean, to people like Sisi also, for example. I mean, it is not different than this, the problem. And then, unfortunately, we saw this problem and we didn't see any. Now, the problem is still there. And as for the problem of the Turkish weaponization of the Syrian refugees, it is not true, of course. Turkey didn't want to make anything like this. Of course, Turkey, all the people who are Syrian people in Turkey are welcome in Turkey, and they are now, we cannot even say that, oh, they are a problem for Turkey. No, they are part of Turkey now. If Turkey have any problem, of course, they are ahlan wa sahlan. They are part of our world, and we will try to undertake all these problems or all these solutions all together, inshallah. And European Union, of course, the problem with us, or the problem of European Union with Turkey was that, of course, you know, when Turkey was being attacked from this part of Syria, from its own borders, we didn't see any solidarity with. We keep aside what we saw from what I mean, the support from European Union. We don't ask for their support. Just we wanted them to be especially respectful to Turkish right of defense, self-defense. I mean, to Turkey, because was being attacked by the terrorists. Turkey, you know, about 37 soldiers of Turkey were killed in Idlib or in Syria, and that made Turkey very angry, of course, about the stand of European Union. And then, of course, it opened the door. It didn't do anything else. It just opened the door and didn't hinder any Syrian people if they wanted to go to Europe. So we of course we didn't send any Syrian people by force. We didn't force any Syrian individual to go outside of Turkey, but we opened the door. Whoever wants to go, we let him go, and even these created very big problem, very big chaos for European Union. And now we saw that the European Union values were tested, and they lost this test. And we saw that all these values which were being very proud of were just fake values, and they didn't keep loyal to their own values. And this was, of course, the only point that Turkey could play.
Let me now ask you, since you mentioned the Turkey's operation in the north, First, what is Turkey's long-term plan, long-term vision for the return of the people who got displaced by Turkey's operations?
The people who were displaced by Turkish operation are not very big number, and even those people are safe, even if they want to go to their own hometown. And I think it is not a considerable amount, the considerable number now. Whoever wants to go now, these place, I mean the place which were displaced by their own people, are now very prepared, well prepared, open, and ready to the return. Turkey is not like the Assad regime, which killed their own citizens, and Turkey created all the situation and the conditions for those who want to return back to their homes. And even those who were displaced came to Turkey. They didn't go to any other place, for example, not to Assad regime's hold areas. And mostly they came to Turkey to find they displaced, not to any place else.
Tell me about the long-term vision for Idlib when it comes to Turkey. What we see now there. Somebody the other day mentioned the term Gazification, as in millions of people crammed into very small area in very difficult conditions, which is inevitable to put more pressure on the Turkish border because the conditions there are simply awful. How do you see the long-term solutions when it comes to Idlib?
Actually, whatever we are doing now is a very temporary solution. It is not stable, and it is not forever. I mean, it is just temporary solution. But because, as you know, Idlib became one of the shelter for all the people who fled from Assad's bombing. And they brought the legitimacy of the Assad regime together with them, and the crowds which happened to be in that region is the indication of all the wrongness or all the bad things happening in Syria because of the regime. And because of the other people, other places also, of course, that there are some people who fled from the PKK or YPG hegemony, or some people who fled from Daesh, and some who fled from American attacks, or from Shi'i militia of Iran. And all these people had found these shelters in Idlib, and from 500,000, half million people, the number arrived at 3 or 4 million people. And this is unbelievable thing. I mean, when we think, I will give you just a very short information and vision about the situation, or the number of the Syrian people under the Turkish I mean monitoring. I mean, like 4 million people in Turkey, 4 million Syrian people in Turkey. More than, when we look at Idlib, is 3 or 4 million people, and also the other people, the Fırat and I mean, and the Olay operational, I mean, the operational area of Turkey, which afterward it created a very free zone for all people, for all these Syrian people. There are living about 6 million people, and in addition to the 6 million people, the 4 million of the people in Turkey, it is about 10 million Syrian people now under the Turkish government. I mean, they are receiving Turkish aids, they are receiving Turkish support, and Turkey is undertaking their livelihood, and Turkey and their all social political services. I mean, This should be always taken into consideration, and who has the right to talk about Syria now? And of course, Turkey has the most important role and right to talk about this. And Turkey's priority is not, for example, to invade or to govern somewhere or to dominate somewhere. Just on the contrary, Turkish priority is to save the lives, to save the lives of the civilian people of Syria, and to introduce them the basic human livelihood or the human rights. Turkish goal is only this, and of course, in Idlib, the existing solutions in Idlib, and the existing situation in Idlib is temporary. Of course, it is not constant. It will be not a constant solution, and we hope and we try to develop. Of course, with dialogue, with political dialogue, with all the relevant parts of the issue, we try to develop any constant solution, political solution, which will help build a new Syria by their own people, by its own people, by the Syrian people, and to leave Syria to the Syrians, of course, not to let anybody, any other parts invade and occupy Syria. But Syria will, at the end, inshallah, Idlib is not normal. That much people are living in Syria in such a small area of the region, and of course, those people are making a pressure, that you are right, on Turkey to come inside Turkey, because Turkey is more attractive for them, and it's comparably, of course, it is relatively better for them, and they are looking for the better. That is from the human nature. That is a sort of, tendency of the human nature. Everybody is trying to find a better place for himself.
Let me ask you one last, maybe it is a significant, large question, but I think it is apt to finish this rich conversation. And you repeated many times that the solution is in Syria. Everybody agrees. I would say displaced Syrians, most of all, agree that the solution is in Syria. The solution is establishment of a safe environment for safe and dignified return. The question to you is, what is Turkey's view of that future? And I'm asking this in the context of a situation where we have Russia organizing return conferences with the Syrian regime in Damascus recently, falsely claiming that conditions exist for people to return, when that is not true. I'm also asking this in the context of the new American administration, with some old faces, but some also new positions, at least publicly stated. So how do you see Turkey's vision of a solution which will ultimately allow displaced Syrians to be able to go back in safety and dignity?
Indeed, all the solutions or the formulations to encourage the Syrian people, or to create the safe situation and conditions for the Syrian people to go back to their homes, is welcomed by Turkey, and Turkey is not criticizing, and it is not in the position of, for example, saying that, oh, I am the only solution. No, everybody has the role, and everybody has the role to create these conditions. But unfortunately, the Syrian people, it is very difficult to convince the people who were bombed several times, numerous times, and just because they are opponent, just because they are silent and that just because their neighbors were opponents, and those people cannot trust Assad's regime as long as Assad's regime is alive and is governing, is ruling the country. I don't think that the Syrian people would trust him and go back under this nation. Nothing has changed. I mean, the conditions which created that migration or that refugee didn't change. And if it didn't change, what is the point that we would convince these people to go back to their home? And what is the guarantee for them if not someday, for example, they will be bombed again or they will be imprisoned again? They'll be tortured, and their honor, their dignity will be violated several times and in very very tragic ways, and in very savage ways. And you know the Assad regime, how is very famous. He's famed with in his tortures in the prisons. It is really really very unhuman. It deserves any trial in the humanity court. I mean, in the human rights courts, or and this, of course, if Russia has any formulation, for example, to convince all these people, let works. I mean, let it work. But I don't think they can convince the all people. They say okay on the officially in the official language. They can say okay, everybody can come back to their home. But if the conditions are not changed, haven't been changed yet, it is very very difficult to convince all these people to go back, because they have lost their jobs, they have lost their children, their mothers, their fathers, their families, and the families have been fragilized. And this fragility, I mean, will not create new situation for new, safe, and convincing and plausible situation to go back.
Do you, a final question, do you believe that the creation of such environment is at all possible with the Syrian regime in place as it is?
I think it is not possible. It is not possible. It is not, the problem is not Turkey, problem is not myself, of course. The problem, of course, if their own people, I mean, the Syrian people can be convinced in that situation, in that conditions, let them. But I think they would not prefer to go back. Because they are not being, I mean, tortured in Turkey, in Germany, in Jordan. They have found relatively better life conditions there, and they will keep living there instead of go in such and taking this risk, because it is very risky. I mean, to go to trust again Assad and to go and find shelter in the now they are not being forced, and Turkey will not force, of course, anybody to go back. Of course, whoever wants to go, and Turkey is trying to find and trying to create the conditions, the environments which will make them, which will be work very attractive for them. But now it is not as much as we look. It is not that much attractive to them. We have no resistance to this. Actually, we cannot resist. We have not the luxury to resist to this, of course, as Turkey, whoever want to go. I mean, we are not in the position of hindering him or being obstacle to their back home. But we will not force. Not forcing is very important, because it's very ethical stance to this or to our hosts.
And it's a tenet of international law. Non-refoulement is one of those.
Yes. Also, there is an international law about them, of course, not to send them back, not to force any refugee to go back.
Professor Yasin Aktay, thank you so very much on behalf of my personal behalf, and also on behalf of the association which asked me to conduct this interview. I think that the interview ran much longer than both of us planned, but I think that it was very rich in substance, and something that will, I think, provide a great deal of insight to the displaced Syrians and also others interested in their issues. I wish you all the luck, and thank you again for agreeing to the conversation.
Thank you.